first of all, this is a transformational project and proves the necessity of an ecosystem play today in the market to actually make a disruption or cause a disruption, right? So you have there Nokia leading technology, 4G, 5G, and the private wireless experience. You have Venko with an end-to-end view in system integration. And we have Ávato and Brazil Tech Par bringing fiber infrastructure, local presence, local knowledge, right? And of course, you have Salinas Gold, right? With their eagerness to innovate and to digitize and bring efficiency and productivity. And this is the beauty of this project, right? The validation that together we can actually disrupt the market, right? Really bring transformation to the most remote areas in the country and worldwide. Salinas Gold is positioned in Mato Grosso, right? A very remote state in Brazil. So you have to understand that Brazil is a very large continental-wide country. I mean, you can fly 4,000 kilometers from north to south, 4,000 kilometers from east to west. And in the specific state where Salinas Gold is, and so in Mato Grosso, only 20 to 23% of areas are actually connected with 4G and 5G today. So we either build a private network, right, that is dedicated and focused on solving the specific needs, or there's no other alternative, right? And it was key that we had our all-in-one 4G solutions, which pretty much simplifies the deployment, right? Enables that in such remote areas, you are able to quickly, simply, and reliably set up high capacity, trustworthy networks, right? So that not only enables, right, such fast deployments, like in less than 50 days, having a full-blown network set up, but it will also ease up and simplify maintenance and operation going forward.
Well, in this situation, the customer was brought to Venko from Ávato, so they are part of Ávato's portfolio, but Ávato doesn't have any experience on deploying private networks. So they came to us, and that's the way we position ourselves as enablers for providers like Ávato, so they can offer this kind of service to their customers. So our role here was exactly to backfill Ávato on this proposal, on the project. So we were able to take the ownership of the project itself and do it kind of end-to-end white label approach to this deal. So that was our role, basically. I'm going to use the term ecosystem. So the way it works is that the opportunities, the requirements identification is made by the person that supports directly the customer. So it's an Ávato person. This person was responsible for raising all the requirements, shared them with Venko. So Venko prepares the initial plan for that, consult Nokia and validate with Nokia the initial study, how it was made, so what are the assumptions that we took, and those assumptions are validated by Nokia's team. And once we return to the customer with the initial coverage, if that's acceptable, and that's the planning phase. Once we have the acceptance from the customer, then we start the order process, the deployment, and in this case, again, we prepare the system in our lab with the support of Nokia, and we ship to Ávato, and Ávato's team is the one that goes to the field and really does the installation and the initial deployment. So once it's ready, then we start the real system integration. We put the whole thing to work, prepare the SIM cards, distribute in some initial test equipments, and then we start really the installation process and the initial tests. So that's more or less how each piece Tecknexus. Of course, with all the support from the from the IT team in the customer.
Venko is our end-to-end system integration, system integrator, right? So Venko really understands our technology, sits together with every partner, understands every little and small component that has to be put together in order for this to work, right? Seamlessly and fastly. And it's very interesting the role of Ávato and Brazil Tech Power in this project. You have to understand that Brazil, being such a large country, more than 50% of the country is actually served in terms of fiber by regional operators. We call them ISPs, right? Internet service providers. And imagine that there is no other way for us to reach and multiply our knowledge, right? And cause impact in the country if we do not leverage that local presence and expertise. So in order to put together a private wireless network, you need fiber, of course, right? Ávato brings the fiber. You need infrastructure. Ávato has the infrastructure. You need local presence, right? You need people in the field, because you cannot have your own people that are in the metropolitan areas serving such remote places, right? And what is missing, right? It's missing specific knowledge and end-to-end support. And that's where Nokia, together with Venko, we jump in, right? And are able to actually implement, right, such impactful solutions.
The situation in the mining is usually not necessarily related with latency, but with all the differences in terms of the geography. Sometimes it's tricky to position the radius, to tune to have the proper coverage in the area. So that was the biggest challenge. So in order to be fast enough, so we could help the customer to fix the issues that they have, the idea was to use existing towers in the area. So the main challenge was to find and use appropriately that existing tower, and at the same time provide the coverage that was necessary. It's so challenging that we still have something like caves in the area that we need a second phase, but the approach that we took was very appropriate to be fast enough and to reuse the existing infrastructure. It was not a very sophisticated case. I think we are going to evolve to more advanced applications. In this case, the trucks that were flowing into the mine, they were equipped with a specific device, and the only thing that we really needed was to tune the use of the bands in the system, so we ensured that every device was able to communicate. So establish some restrictions in how each of the devices were consuming the available spectrum. That was, in this case, this is something specific for Brazil. This specific frequency is quite limited. So we need to be sure that nobody is stealing more bandwidth than necessary. So that was the main challenge. So I think that the first challenge is exactly how to extend the coverage to the caves. So we have something that are deeper than 150 meters. So it's kind of a hole in the middle of nothing. And usually, this is specifically for minery. Usually you don't have towers across the space, because that area where the tower is installed may become a new hole, a new exploration area in the future. So we are exploring two alternatives. One is to have a kind of mobile station. So it's a truck with the radio on the top. So we can move this in the plant and position it according with the exploration in that specific time. So that's one interesting way of doing it. And the other one is to increase the capacity of the units installed in the trucks, so they can be seen by the radio, even inside the caves.
Certainly, the mining business has been, or the mining segment, right, has been the leading segment in Latin America for the last years. Since 2017, more or less, right, when the first networks were deployed in mining in Chile, right, all the way to very large deployments with Vale, for instance, in Brazil. So the mining segment has been leading deployments in 4G and 5G when it comes to private wireless. But several ports, so the maritime segment, right, has largely adopted both 4G as well as 5G across the region. Large manufacturing players, we have cases like Jacto and many other solutions that has been deployed across Latin America. And the agribusiness is a very interesting scenario, right? So for instance, Mato Grosso, the same region where Salinas Gold is represented, has deployed millions of hectares, or has connected millions of hectares, right? And there we've done also pretty interesting ecosystem work together with Conectar Agro, where industrial players, application players, universities, institutions, everybody comes together, cloud players, right? Everybody comes together in order to promote the most viable solution. Because at the end, it's not only about technology, right? But it's about the full ecosystem and the usability of the solutions. And of course, an additional player, right, or an additional segment that we've been seeing adopting private wireless solutions, the utility segment. In Brazil, for instance, for 150 megahertz has been assigned dedicated to utilities. And we see such movements in Argentina, in Chile, in Bolivia, in Ecuador. So many of the Latin American country utility players are now investing or looking at private LTE, right? Both to AMI, right, to automate measurement, as well for automating their field operations.
Well, I think that there are one important aspect, which is how the way we simplify the thing. So everybody sees, in general, I mean, a 5G or a 5G as something extremely complex that takes a lot of time to implement. And when we are flexible enough to understand the existing infrastructure, to understand the urgency in the customer, we can do it faster and quickly, even if it's not perfect in the first moment, but perfectionist comes with time. So we don't need it. The customer is extremely happy on the kind of deployment that we did, even if it was not completely perfect. So that's the point. I think it's nice to emphasize.
I mean, first of all, it's bringing fiber, right? So basing the backbone on fiber, basing the backhaul on fiber, that enables for quick development, quick expansions, right? Or updates. Secondly, I think bringing the core to the edge. Firstly, it enables reliability. So if everything falls, I mean, you have your network still running, and because the operation at the end cannot stop. And then having a 4G network that can easily scale towards 5G enables Salinas, Venko, and Ávato, right, at any time to improve coverage, right, by adding a new site or adding a new sector, improving capacity, right, either by adding new sectors or simply deploying a new 5G layer. And it's interesting to notice that Anatel, Brazilian regulator, has done a pretty interesting work in setting up and making a dedicated private spectrum, right, available for mines, ports, or manufacturing players, right, to actually set up their own solutions. But our solution is also ready to go beyond data connectivity speeds for people or machines, but also activate IoT solutions over NB-IoT, or to activate, let's say, dedicated solutions through CAT-M1. So with a very simple setup, we're able to actually support people, devices, and machines, right? And enable fast scalability.